Hi there, I'm Nesh, Nikolic, clinical psychologist. I wanted to share my thoughts and views around something I'm very passionate about, which is clearly ADHD. ADHD stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. I feel that this is a category that obviously a lot of people go out and experience, particularly younger persons, because they'll have attentional difficulties and they will kind of look hyperactive. But I want to go out and flip this on its head for a moment. My issue is not with AD and H, but rather with this D at the very, very end. The fact that we call it a disorder. And I have a problem with that personally because I just believe it doesn't fit in how we would describe a young person and rarely an older person. Yes, a lot of kids by temperament have got attentional difficulties. In actual fact, kids themselves have got attentional difficulties. If you think about it and you've watched and observed children, raised children, you will see that they actually struggle to maintain attention. Hence why very early on we would go out and try and capture a child's attention with toys, or we would quite easily go out and move their attention from, let's say, they graze their knee to something else and say, oh, look at this, it's a fluffy bear or something, and we can shift their attention. So children's attentional spans are much, much less than their obviously adult counterparts. Hyperactivity. If you think about how much energy a child has in comparison to an adult, you will see vast differences. I mean, they're incredibly different, and you know that's not news to anybody. You see, children are very quick to shift their attention. Their focus is broken. They're moving very quickly, and they're very, very, very active, right? So when we look at attentional stuff, I wouldn't call it a deficit, not in my eyes. Now, I'm certainly not suggesting that kids don't go through difficulties in life when their attention is very low or when they're very, very active. My concern is with this, the disorder part. I don't believe that most kids, and particularly the overdiagnosis of ADHD, I don't believe that most kids go out and fit this category of D as a disorder. I might go out and call it a ADH, experience or response or temperament rather than a disorder. I don't think it's fair to label most children. Now look, there are some children that obviously have extreme attentional and hyperactive temperaments, and I would go out in some sense want to explore what the context is for this child in terms of what's their family life like, how much routine and stability is in their world, even diet, for example, because we know that can go out and affect how they are, their level of exercise and availability to activities and the like, to try and understand what the context is of a child that might be very troubled with how they go out and maintain their attention and how hyperactive, or I like to just call it physical activity levels. He said describing it, in my view, is much more important. So ADHD, let's think about it as children who are active and how do we go out and support them, particularly in boring contexts, because this is where we find a lot of people talking about this child has ADHD. It's interesting that they can have ADHD in the setting of mathematics, which is dull, boring, and I'd rather go out and for a child stick pins in my eyes. It's just painful, versus a child that's bored and therefore might be playing up. And I tell you what, English isn't any better, geography isn't any better, and so on and so forth, because these are boring activities. A lot of children who experience ADHD, interestingly, have an incredible capacity to go out and play a computer game, something that's interesting, exciting, enthralling for, in essence, sometimes hours. They're available to go out and maintain that attention and focus for a much longer period than trying to sit them down to do mathematics. Please keep in mind, I know I've tried to repeat it a few times, I'm not saying that children don't have temperaments that have got attentional difficulties or they're highly active kids, but we've just got to question whether disorder is an appropriate way to label these children. One final fact before we go out and finish this video is most children go out and grow out of ADHD, moving into older adolescence or early adulthood, and certainly within adulthood. So it's quite interesting that functionally when we're required to do so, an adult can't get really away with having a tantrum in the workplace because they'll probably get the sack, and therefore they kind of decide to manage their experiences. So we know that children don't manage their emotions very well, they don't have very good emotional regulation capacity, and that's what parents tend to do for their children. So let's not go out and label our beautiful kids who are probably by temperament or by context going through a difficult time themselves. I hope that resonated with some of you. I know this is a little bit controversial, but I'm really excited to get some of your comments and to hear your views. I'm also, quite eager to hear about some of you that have had really difficult experiences with your own kids who have been diagnosed with ADHD. Before you go out and make a comment below, please read the text that's supplied with this video to give more context to what I've said. It's important to try and understand that this is a really big topic and needs to be considered and explored. And I'm really hoping that you engage in this topic and read a little bit further. I've provided in the text a number of different sort of readings you can start to look at with some research. I suppose a place where you can go out and consider further your own views and develop further your own views about ADHD, how it's defined, how it's diagnosed, and what role maybe a diagnosis has to play versus being able to be more descriptive about what a child might be experiencing. So please don't watch this video alone and make your assessment. Do the further reading so that you can put all of this into context to go out and consider your own views. It's important that we all become part of this conversation. Look forward to hearing from you.